Greetings, class, and thank you for taking the time to view my video. I am Chanel Underwood, and my pitch will be on the DoD Performance Management and Appraisal Program, a smarter way to track and manage performance. With DP Maps, we found a simpler and better way to track and manage the performance of Department of Army civilians, also known as DA civilians for short. You may be asking, what do you get after implementing a program such as DP Maps? Well, you get an opportunity to talk. You have a dedicated time to measure performance and benchmarks that are established by higher headquarters, a method to identify opportunities for growth, an opportunity to have dedicated time to develop employees and employee input. Every single employee will be on this same track. So you would perform these counselings and performance measures and check on progress and development on the same schedule for all your employees. So everything will be synchronized. So the process of DP Map starts with that initial meeting within the first 30 days of employment and annually in every April. So the first thing you will do is you will review the items that are in the position description. This is very important when an employee is onboarded, and it's also important to review annually because we can kind of get caught up in our day-to-day and forget the small aspects of our job that we kind of let fall to the wayside. Then you will have 1 to 10 concise sentences of work to be accomplished, and this will be called the elements. Once you establish your elements, then you would set standards for each one of those elements, and those requirements for each element, which defines how the work will be accomplished using the SMART criteria. The SMART criteria asks that your standards be specific, be measurable, be achievable, relevant, and timely. So what I have here is kind of an example based on a paralegal. So the duty title may be paralegal, paralegal specialist, or litigation paralegal, whatever it may be. Element 1 is just one of many elements, but 1 is to process requests for administrative separations. And the standard would be to process requests for administrative separations within 3 business days, 90% of the time, to ensure timely notification to the respondent. Now, it's important to set your goals and set your standards and your measurement tools to be realistic. No one is perfect, so writing 100% in there wouldn't make any sense. So it needs to be achievable, it needs to be measurable, it needs to be specific. So 3 business days is reasonable and is specific. And 90% is measurable and is also achievable. And it also is relevant and timely because this is something that is actually expected to be performed within that position description. The advantages of this program is that it allows you to track performance. So tracking is also monitoring, which encourages two-way communication, continuous performance feedback, and timely recognition. Here you can see how each quarter is broken down. So the first quarter is between April and June. So in June, you will have your very first performance checkup. And so at that point, you will sit down and you will examine each of your elements and each of the performance standards to see how you're progressing and if you're meeting those standards. July through September is the next checkpoint. And what is really great about this is that if you discovered that, hey, maybe someone isn't meeting those performance measurements or they're not meeting those benchmarks, it is a good time to put in place a performance improvement plan or some type of development tools or training to assist the employee with getting back on track. The next checkpoint is between October and December, and then January and March brings it to a close in which your final evaluations will be due. So you have numerous opportunities to sit down with your employee. So since this has higher oversight, you never have to worry about forgetting to complete it because Human Resources Department will not let you forget. And so they will help you by creating those internal deadlines and those internal reminders that would allow you to say, hey, it's time for us to sit down and chat about how you've been doing over the last quarter, being good, bad, or indifferent. That way, when it's time for you to sit down and do the evaluation, it's very easy because you have all the notes already in the program from the previous quarter counselings. And at that time, you can go ahead and write in the information that is necessary to provide the evaluation. And then, of course, there are 3 categories in which you can rate someone, and that is unacceptable, fully successful, and outstanding. So if you're going to rate somebody as unacceptable, then, of course, what we would expect to see is that they were made aware of it in the previous quarters, and there were some initiatives by the management team to get the employee back on track. The evaluation process encompasses employee input, performance narrative, and then a final supervisor rating. It provides a fair, transparent mechanism for rewarding good performance. So it is very good because you're sitting down with employees, and when you're doing that at these quarterly counselings, it should be transparent. You should be letting employees know when they're doing well, and you should be letting them know when there are areas in which they can improve on through this system. And then at the end, if you can see how they have progressed and how well they've done over the quarter, then of course it will provide easy language for you to put in an awards request, which can be a monetary award, it can be an actual certificate, or it can be a time off award, whatever you may decide. Now, of course, there can be some barriers and some issues that are encountered with the system. First, it can be confusing to navigate initially, and then the back and forth between the employee feedback and the supervisor feedback. Both need to be on a computer that is CAC enabled. So if you perform the counseling in the office and you're at your desk and you guys are kind of going over the performance standards and elements together, they can't really acknowledge it until they go back to their desk and log into their computer and go into the evaluation to provide their feedback. So it might be a good idea for you both to take notes that you can later put in at a different time. Some employers or managers fall into the pitfalls of where they're not actually having the conversation and sitting down and talking to their employees. They're doing it at their computer and then sending it to the employee. Then the employee is providing the input and then sending it back to the supervisor, and not really taking that dedicated time to sit down and have a transparent conversation. The next is the use of the system requires Cac Authentication to access the cloud software. So it's not something that can be used at home, or so like if someone's at home or someone's left for the day and you need them to go in there and do something, they really can't do it unless they're on a device with the CAC reader in their CAC card in order to log in and verify that they are who they say they are. So some of the resources required is a short tutorial, which I strongly suggest to help you understand and navigate the systems and the whole back and forth and sending it to the next echelon. It requires CAC authentication, which can be a drawback, but it also ensures privacy and security. It requires, of course, that you have network computer access. It requires time and thoughtful consideration, and it also requires privacy and confidentiality, which all of those things it has. An excellent resource to learn more about some tips, tools, some templates that can be used is through the DoD Performance Management and Appraisal Program Perform Policy at the DCPAS official website. And then, of course, there is their mailing address and also their email address at which you can contact them to get more information or advice, or if you find some glitches in the program that you would like to report, or maybe just some suggestions on how it can be a little bit more smoother. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and that you will consider this, if you're in the public sector, as a tool that you can use to rate the performance of your employees. Take care and have an excellent rest of your day.